morning, and welcome to Wednesdays with Darren and Cindy, where we bring you real conversation about things that affect our lives and the community. My name is Cindy Ward,
And my name is Darren Powell.
and we are going to be your host for our podcast. On an average PCS season, about 40% of military spouses have to uproot and go with their spouses to another PCS station. With that being said, this leads to a lot of the military spouses having to leave their jobs, having to leave their professions to go ahead and start something new. Well, today we're going to be talking about military spouses, the spouse education, and spouse opportunities. And we have with us today a nice special guest with us, Mr. Steve. Can you please introduce yourself and give us a little bit about yourself?
Okay, my name's Steve Mourey. I've been working with the Employment Readiness Program for approximately 6 years. Out of those 6 years, 5.5 were over at Atsugi. So I'm pretty familiar with this. So if you have any questions, please stop by and I can help out.
Okay.
Steve, could you tell us a little bit about your background, your background in the military?
Well, I'm a retired sailor, 22 years. And out of my 22 years in the Navy, 17 were on Atsugi. And in total, in Japan, I've been here for 24 years. And the military spouse preference and veterans preference, it hits home, so I know a lot about it. So I'm here to share my information.
Okay. When speaking about the spouse education and career opportunity program, could you give our listeners the highlights of each program and what you feel are the most important aspects of the program?
Okay, so with the spouse education career opportunities, the SECO, that program offers like career coaching, career counseling type things. You get mentorship, and they kind of help you out trying to get your resume and everything fixed. And the military spouse employment program, well, partnership, that's where they come into play and put you in fields for jobs or schoolings. So that's how that works. So the SECO and MSEP are together, but they're a little bit different, but they both help out spouses.
That's awesome. Okay, so Steve, you provided us some employment information before the podcast, and looking over that information, that material prior to this podcast, I saw words like mentor and coach. Can you speak a little more on those issues or those topics that I saw in the material?
Yeah, sure, I can. So coaches, for instance, they can help you stage your career, looking for the right school to connect with potential employers. So you can contact the SECO coach at 800-342-9647, or you can use the live chat feed on the MySECO website. So when it comes to the mentors, it's pretty much the same thing, but the mentors give guidance, advice, and support for the military spouses more than the actual coaching part. So the mentors are there to point you in the right direction to keep you from going, the wrong way. And the coaches are to build you. That way your resumes and everything look good prior to you applying for positions.
Awesome. Okay.
Yeah, Steve, could you talk a little bit about the career advancement account scholarship program? Who do you feel would be the best candidates, best fits for the program? Is the application process friendly or cumbersome?
Yeah, I want to know about this one because, this sounds very interesting. Yeah. So please enlighten us.
Okay, so here we go. So the MyCAA scholarship, okay, it's for soldiers, sailors, airmen, Marines, Coast Guardsmen, spouses for E1 through E5, W1 through W2, and O1 through O2. So they can apply for this scholarship, and the scholarship, it helps out. It's $4,000 extra dollars. But when it comes to applying for it, I wouldn't know how to do that since I don't have the authorization to do it. However, Miss Cindy Ward, who's interviewing me right now, she can tell you how to do that.
Well, actually, listeners, I do want to let you know the MyCAA is an awesome program. That is how I was able to get my financial counseling certification and as well as my web design certification. All I did was I went to the school in which I wanted to use my CAA. And at the time, my husband was military, and so we did qualify because he was in that bracket. The school helped me to fill out all the paperwork. I went through Townsend University, and it was super easy. And I didn't have to pay $1. My husband didn't have to pay $1. So it was amazing. So spouses, if you're out there and you need it, my CAA is the way to go.
This is something that I've been kind of waiting to hear, Steve. And this one right here, I think we've had conversations about this, and a lot of people have discussions on this. But could you break down the spousal preference program? I think this is huge because when people come in and there's a spousal preference, I think a lot of times there's a lot of information that people don't get, or they get through by way of people who may not be qualified to give them that information, and it kind of throws them off.
I agree.
Okay, Roger. So, military spousal preference program. It allows federal agencies to hire military spouses using certain guidelines. However, each agency is different. So when you're applying for military spousal preference, the Navy might do it different than what the Air Force does, and the Army completely different than everybody else. And then, some positions, depending on how high it is, military spousal preference won't apply for it. What you do have to know is when you come over here and you apply for a position and you take a NAF position at a low pay, and then your GS-11 position that you've been dreaming of comes available, you cannot utilize your military spousal preference because you already used it for the lower paying position. So when utilizing military spouse preference, I would, check everything out and make sure that you're not using it. When you're looking at temp jobs or flex jobs, you do not have to use it. But when you're looking at full-time jobs, military spousal preference will be used on NAF and government service jobs.
And so, say for instance, I'm here. I use my military spouse preference. At PCS, does it start all over again?
Yes, it does.
Okay. All right, now we're talking.
Is there any difference between overseas location and a stateside location as far as these preferences or these programs?
Well, from what I've seen in my time over here, military spousal preference is priority overseas, where the veterans get the preference in the States. Now, there are different types of positions available where they can do direct hires, but I'm not HR, so I can't really get into that. But, it's a fair preference. I believe both veterans and military spouse preference, is utilized the right way. And, again, you just need to understand when you apply for a job, if you have to use it, you lose it, unless you PCS.
This is good information.
Yeah, it's great information. So, Cindy, I'm going to throw one at you.
Oh, wow.
I guess you weren't really prepared for this.
No, I wasn't.
But what would you say to the new spouse, the spouse on her first, just coming in the military, just getting married, just coming into the military environment, never been around it before, and just as far as their journey and trying to develop employment skills?
So, the first thing I would say to a very new spouse is try to get your husband to bring you over to ACS to help, so ACS can help you develop a resume. That's what I would say. And then number 2 is get in somewhere where you can volunteer. Build your resume. And so go to ACS so they can help you with your resume, and then start building your resume by volunteering. For a new spouse, if they're just coming over, they don't know really the ins and outs of the military life. So the more you have on your resume, the better, because you're going to be PCSing here, there, and everywhere. So you want to go ahead and build that resume.
Okay. Good. Steve,
What would you say, Steve?
Did you add anything to that?
So along the lines, too, when you're checking in, please stop on by. Myself and Brad Morgan, we're skilled at writing resumes and reviewing resumes. We can also offer interview skills. But with the MySeco and the MSEP stuff, I have a lot of pamphlets and stuff around the building. So if you are confused about what's going on, don't worry. Most people are, but please stop on by and we can help out.
Okay, good. I have one other question. So what happens if I'm the spouse who gets out of the military and I'm mill to mill and I get out, and now I'm the spouse. I'm the dependent spouse. I'm overseas. How does these programs pertain to me as a veteran and a spouse?
That's a
Well,
good question.
yeah, that is a good question. Again, your spousal preference, you can only use it once during your time. So if you utilize your spousal preference and then another job comes available and you are a veteran, you can always fall back on your veteran's preference. With that said, I've also heard, and I'm not sure, like I said, I'm not HR, but if you have two people going head to head and they're both utilizing spousal preference and it's neck and neck where you can't determine who's going to get picked or not. If the other one has a veteran's preference along with that, that more likely will not be the winner.
Will not be the winner?
Will be the winner.
Will be the
Okay,
winner.
okay, all right, interesting. I was like, wow. That was gonna be my next question. Why is that the case? You know, but yeah, but again, I think that transition is it's difficult for a lot of people when they come up, and then so again, you've been kind of dealing with it one way or another, but now you're overseas and you're that spouse. So you're trying to make that transition. So this is great information, Steve. Appreciate your help on all of this. I think it's going to be very helpful for a lot of spouses, especially in this environment, because it is such a sacrifice to be overseas and not have the resources that the stateside assignments may afford you as far as employment and things like that. Yeah. Any closing remarks? Any closing thoughts?
The only thing I would say is, again, I'll reiterate it. Please stop by and see us prior to applying for jobs. That way we can give you more direction on your military spousal preference, because I don't want to see somebody waste it when they didn't have to. So please stop by and we can help out.
Awesome.
Could I just add one more thing? We have a little bit of time, so I'm going to throw another thing on you. Now, Brad came and talked to us about the resume process, the federal resume process. What would you say that spouse who's has a resume that they've had in the States, and now they're going to try to translate that into what we're talking about today, as far as the spousal preference and getting a job and things like that? I just want to reiterate that, because I think that's so important, because it's such a different process.
So what I would say is, when you're applying for the job and you want to tailor your resume to it, look for the keywords in the job postings, because that's one of the main things that they look for are the keywords. And if you don't know what the keywords are, again, stop on by, because positions over here differ than the positions in the States, because there are less. So everybody is fighting for that one job over here, whereas you were back in the States, there might be 30 of those jobs. But because of the population and the small base, the positions are not widely available. So again, I'm going to keep reiterating, please stop by and see us, and we can help you out.
Nice.
And I'd just like to say that I think Camp Zama has the A team as far as this type of stuff. We have some very experienced people. Brad and Steve can help you in a numerous amount of ways. Cindy, they're all great. And so I would just further iterate. I think you're in really good hands coming over here. I think you can trust that they're going to give you the best advice to advance your career, your opportunities while you're in this location. And I think it would benefit you in your entire career as a military spouse.
I ditto that. Well, that was our Wednesdays with Darren and Cindy podcast. Today we had as our special guest, Mr. Steve Mourey. And